This month, Anthropic just launched something called Claude for small businesses. And unlike most AI announcements, this one is actually for you and not for a Fortune 500 company. Let me show you what it is, what it does, and if it's worth your time. Here's the problem Claude for small businesses is trying to solve. Small businesses make up almost half of the entire US economy. As a result, they also employ almost half of all private sector workers. And yet, a lot of AI tools have been built entirely for big companies with big AI teams and also big budgets. A lot of small business owners end up using AI like a search engine, asking it a question, getting an answer, and then moving on. That's not entirely nothing, but it is barely scratching the surface of what AI can do for you. What Anthropic just launched will allow Claude to work inside the tools that you already pay for, doing the actual work for you and not just answering questions. One confusion that a lot of people had was that they thought this was another product that they would have to pay on top of their existing Claude plan. However, that's not the case. Claude for small business is a feature toggle that you can turn on within the Cowork section of your Claude desktop app. With that switch, you can then connect existing tools and then also access all kinds of different pre-built workflows to use. So basically the best part, there's no extra charge. If you already have a Claude Pro or Claude Max plan, you're good to go. So let's get into the Claude desktop app and get started. Alright, so I'm now in the Claude desktop app in the Cowork section. If you do not have Claude desktop app, I've linked the download below in my video description for you to go to. The first thing you'll want to do is install the Claude for Small Business plugin, and to do that, you'll just select Customize right here. As you'll see, I already have it downloaded here, but to do so, you'll just click the plus sign icon over here and click Browse Plugin. If for any reason this plus sign is grayed out for you, that happened to me once, you can also access it right here. So go ahead and select Browse Plugin, and then you're going to search for small business. As you can see, it's already pulled up for me right here. You will notice a plus sign if it's your first time downloading it. But again, since I've downloaded it, it has a gear icon to show settings for me. So once you have downloaded the plugin, it'll look something like this. I'm going to go ahead and select it. As you can see, Claude has given a very brief description of what this plugin is. It says pre-built small business workflows include payroll planning, month-end close, weekly briefs, and growth campaigns using tools such as QuickBooks, PayPal, HubSpot, DocuSign, G Suite, and so on. The plugin also comes with a bunch of skills that you can use. If you're not sure what a skill is, it's basically a file that provides Claude with specific instructions on a certain process. That way you do not have to explain the process over and over again to Claude. You can just provide a very brief prompt and Claude will already know what exactly you're asking for, the structure that you're looking for, and so forth. So as you can see here, here's one example of a skill. This one's called Business Pulse, and it is to provide a one-page cross-functional business snapshot for small business owners, providing cash positions, sales trends, pipeline movement, this week's commitments, urgent watch list, and the single most important thing that needs attention today. You will notice that it's going to pull all of these data from different tools. For example, the cash position is going to be pulled from your QuickBooks tool if that's what you use, and then PayPal for sales trend, pipeline movement, that's going to be from HubSpot, this week's commitment, so that's going to be from your calendar, and finally, urgent watch list items, that's from Gmail or Slack. So those existing tools that you connect to Claude are called connectors, and you can find that right here. So there are so far 12 existing tools that Claude has identified as the most used tools by small business owners, and those are QuickBooks, PayPal, HubSpot, Canva, DocuSign, Slack, Strip, Square, Microsoft 365, Gmail, Google Calendar, and Google Drive. So this is where you would just install and connect the tools that you currently use for your small business. It doesn't have to be all of them, obviously, just the ones that you use. As you can see here for myself, I already have Gmail and Google Calendar installed on my computer, but I have not connected it yet. One thing I do want to point out, and I'm sure that's the question that's literally on your mind right now, is my data safe? Anthropic actually asked a lot of small business owners what would be your hesitancy with using an AI tool like Claude and connecting it to your existing tools. And a lot of them surveyed saying data security was their biggest concern. So let me just address a couple of things that I've learned. With the tools that you currently use right now that are listed here, your existing permissions can carry over. So for example, if someone on your team cannot see certain records on QuickBooks or Google Drive, they cannot see it in Claude either. The access rules that you already set up will still stay in place. Second, Anthropic does not train on your business data for those with teams or enterprise plans. So your financials, your client list, your contracts, that information isn't being used to teach models. Third, every workflow is user initiated. Claude isn't running in the background making decisions. You start the task, you approve the output, you're in control. Now, is it perfect? No AI system is going to be perfect. So the best thing you can do really is to research the existing privacy terms of the tools that you're going to connect and also Claude's terms. But the good thing here is the architecture is genuinely designed around the fact that small business owners are going to be putting real operational data into the system. Now I'm going to talk really briefly about some of the 15 pre-built workflows that you can use within Claude Small Business to give you a better idea of how you can use this. The first one is payroll planning. Claude can pull your active employees and pay periods from QuickBooks, match your cash balances against incoming PayPal settlements, calculate gross pays, flag anything weird such as new hires, people who worked overtime, terminations, and give you a payroll summary to approve before anything goes up. You're not doing the math, you're just going to be reviewing the math. The second is a month-end close. This one is huge. Claude connects to QuickBooks and your bank feeds, catches discrepancies between what you've recorded and what you actually settled, reconciles categories, generates a profit and loss statement, and packages it all up for your accountant. What used to take a Sunday afternoon can get compressed into a supervised review. The third is invoice chasing. Claude can find your overdue invoices, draft follow-up messages, and monitor payment status. You prove the messages before anything gets sent. Nobody gets an awkward email you didn't write. Next is Lead Triage. If you're using HubSpot, Claude reads your pipeline, categorizes and prioritizes your inbound leads, and drafts outreach for your review. It's not replacing your sales instincts, it's doing the sorting so you can focus on the conversations. Finally, the last thing is Campaign Kickoff. This one connects multiple tools in one run. Claude briefs a marketing campaign from your pipeline data, generates assets in Canva, and then schedules distribution. You go from an idea to publish without switching between 5 tabs. The common thread among all of this is that Claude does the work for you and you approve everything. Nothing gets sent, posted, or paid without your approval. Now I want to show you a live demo of one of these tools and how you'll get started installing and using it. I'm going to be demoing HubSpot today, so I'm going to go ahead and select install. As you can see, this pop-up opens, so I'm going to click connect, and now it's asking me to log in into my HubSpot account. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so once you're logged in, you're going to see something that looks like this. And this goes back to the terms and permissions that I was talking about. So it's saying that it needs to view properties and details about company, contacts, deals, emails, primary domains, and tickets. Here it's giving you all the optional permissions that you can provide Claude. And obviously you're just pick the ones that you're comfortable with. One thing though, which is I think a good thing, it says your AI connectors cannot delete data. So what this means is that it cannot delete data for you in your HubSpot account. You're going to have to do that directly within HubSpot and not through Claude. This is a safety thing to make sure no precious items are lost, which I think is a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and select you are agreeing to use a third-party application and connect app. Now, once you're connected, it's going to prompt you to open Claude back up again. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And as you can see here, there's no longer an install button over the HubSpot connector. So that means HubSpot is connected. And now that we have HubSpot connected, I am back in the co-work section of Claude. So this is the part where you will already have real data from your business connected. However, I'm going to show you a demo. Before I do that though, I realize I have not explained what HubSpot is for those of you who have not used it before. HubSpot is a customer platform and CRM, which is customer relationship management system that's designed to help businesses manage their marketing, sales, customer service, and website operations. HubSpot offers a free foundational CRM. However, it does have several specialized tools called hubs, which can be used for marketing, sales, service, content, operations, and commerce. Now that we know that, let's get back into it. Alright, so now back to the demo. Now that we have HubSpot connected, I wanted to point out that I do have about 6 sample contacts in my HubSpot account, all with sample information on those leads. I'm going to go ahead and enter this prompt right here. Based on everything you know about Meridian Advisory, so Meridian Advisory is the fake company that I'm using for this demo, and our current leads in HubSpot, rank all 6 contacts by follow-up urgency for each one. Tell me how long they've been idle, what the key risk is if we don't act, and what you recommend as the single best next step. factor in deal value, timeline sensitivity, and the specific objections or blockers in each deal's notes. So let's say you have about 50 clients in your HubSpot account. This is one good way that you can use Claude to help you organize and summary the statuses of all your leads. So I'm going to go ahead and press enter right now. All right, so Claude has pulled up all of the 6 leads that I mentioned from HubSpot, and it gave me a ranking by follow-up urgency, factoring in deal value, idle time, deadline pressure, and finally the blocker noted on each. So again, these are all sample data. As you can see here, it has provided me a summary on how long someone has been sitting in one stage and also specific notes on each of them, which is provided right here. Now at the bottom here, it's telling me the single most important action today that you can do is call Marcus before close of business. Of the 6, he's the one where both the deal value and the deadline pressure are working against you simultaneously, and he's the easiest to lose if you wait another week. And then it gives a specific action, want me to draft the actual emails, call scripts for the top 3, or turn this into a live HubSpot tracker you can reopen and refresh anytime. And now I'll include this next prompt, which is a draft follow-up email that it can be sent to the link that was ranked the most urgent, and which is in this case, Marcus Webb. I said use the specific context from the deal notes, reference what we discussed, acknowledge the gap in communication, and address their main objection or blocker without being pushy. Keep the tone warm and consultative, consistent with how Meridian Advisory works. And with one clear, low-friction call to action, do not send, I'll review it first. Alright, as you can see here, this is the draft email that was provided for me. It acknowledges the 2-week gap without apologizing for it, addresses the CFO blocker by taking work off his plate, mentions the Q3 timing as context. It is insane how many details Claude can provide into its emails. The next thing that I would like Claude to do with my HubSpot is to do a Campaign Kickoff, which I'm going to use this prompt right here. By the way, I'll also include all the prompts that I've used in the description below in case you're interested in using them. So for this prompt, look at the full Meridian Advisory pipeline in HubSpot based on deal stages, expected close dates, and the number of active leads. Identify where we're most likely to hit a revenue gap in the next 60 days, then draft a short outbound campaign to generate new leads during the window. Include the audience segment to target, a recommended outreach window, 3 subject lines, and a short email. Alright, so it's telling me that it already has the full pipeline data from earlier in this conversation, so I can move straight into analysis. So it's showing me where the revenue gap is most likely to land today, and then also gave me forecasts for the next 60 days. And then finally, it also gave me an outbound campaign to fill for the July window that's apparently empty, and that's the gap. So it provided me the audience segments and recommended outreach windows. And then it also provided me an email so that I can conduct my outreach. And that's it. That is one of the many things that you can do with Claude Small Business. So test it out, connect the tools that you use. If your pain point is finances and you use QuickBooks, connect QuickBooks. If your pain point is following up with leads and you use HubSpot, test it out. And if you're still very hesitant, maybe start off with something simple like Google Drive, Gmail, Google Calendar, or your Microsoft Suite. And also remember, your permissions are very important. So remember how with HubSpot, it gave you the bare minimum permissions and then all the other optional permissions. Sometimes when you're using Claude, it might say, hey, I do not have permission to do something, and then you're going to have to go back and update those permissions. So make sure to keep track of that if something is not working. And also, if you have connected with a specific tool and you've tried it out, let me know how it went in the comments below. I would love to hear from you and what your experience was like. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel. I post weekly videos on AI tools and how to use them. Recently, I have been covering down a lot on Claude, but I do intend to research and demo more tools in the future. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.